Got 2 thumbs up from my crew in the back of the room. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Discovery Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. We are here broadcasting live from Merlin, Oregon. And in just a moment, Guy Finley is going to come on and give an hour-long talk. We'll take a break and we'll come back for part 2 class, which will be an open Q&A dialogue discussion with all of you in the room and all of you on the line as well. Thanks for joining us out there in cyber world. If you are out there watching from GoToWebinar or Facebook or YouTube and you have any difficulties during the broadcast, just reach out to us in the chat area, the question box, depending on where you are. You can also email support@guyfinley.org, and I will receive that email and try to help you. And for those of you in the room, if you brought a phone with you, if you could please check that really quick and make sure that it's off. And I think, without further ado, we're ready to get started. So I'm going to start by reading the topic and the key lesson for tonight, and then I'll hand it over to Guy. The topic tonight is the first step in saving yourself from the most painful illusion on earth. And here's the key lesson. It's always the right time to discover something new and true about our own nature, even if, in that moment, it feels as if what we've uncovered seems altogether wrong.
Good evening, everyone, and everyone joining us from wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is. It's noon on Tuesday here. Discovery Wednesdays, we always work together as a group at certain points during the talk so that we can perceive together things that are ordinarily out of our sight. It helps to know that others see things that when we actually recognize that what they're seeing is something that we see but never really knew that we were seeing that. It brings us together. It creates a cohesive atmosphere in which we can work together to go into material ideas, insights that are by and large not available in this world and certainly not welcome by most men and women. At a point in this talk, I will ask you, as I do on Wednesdays, to join the group here in making a list. We make a list given a certain topic so that in contributing, each of us, as we will, to that list, some insight or idea or quality to it, we can begin to build a recognition that, wow, all of these things that they said or feel or do, I say, feel, and do myself. So we're not that different at all. And that's a fairly important thing to discover. So let me start. Relax. Let me start by asking you a simple question. We can take a moment or two and you can answer it as best you can. It'll help us before I bring our actors up on stage and go into the material that we have. If someone were to ask you, what do you think it is that causes you the daily stress or anger or fear, the daily worry, self-doubt, the regrets? What do you think is the source of that daily unwanted experience of yourself in the moment? What would you say it is? Let's increasingly not work to answer mechanically. Do you understand? If I knew without having to take thought what the answer was, I'd be a free human being, as you'll see. But what do you think it is? Chrissy, what do you think it is?
My expectation.
Chrissy said, I think the source of my daily suffering is my expectations. That's close enough. We'll go on. Leah?
The experience of myself that I'm not.
The daily source of my suffering is the experience of myself, said Leah. And of course, we do experience ourselves on a daily basis. But that's not quite the answer either. Over there, Deb.
An image that something in us is putting
something that we need to be, that's along the lines of the expectations. Come on. Yeah, do you have this lovely, merrily row your boat down the stream everyday life? Are you telling me that you don't get stressed and anxious? What is the source? Dana.
It's the momentum of the same mechanical thing that just starts again.
It's the momentum, she says, of this mechanical mind. Wayne.
What I want and don't want.
What I want and what I don't want, says Wayne. Terry. My reactions. Barbara. Fear of what may be coming. Sally. My what?
Demands.
Okay. What you suffer from and don't know that you suffer from are all of your solutions to your suffering. That's what you suffer from, and nothing else. Because every solution that you've come up with in order to get rid of the past you don't want, or a future that you fear may be coming, some character or quality that you want to expunge from yourself because it doesn't belong in a celestial or otherwise spiritual person. Every last one of those always comes with a solution, doesn't it? I see the problem. I have a reaction to what I see, even though I don't know I wasn't the one that brought the problem to my mind. And the next thing I know, I'm like a solution machine. I'm better than a donut machine. I make solutions that free me from donuts. And if you find one of those, let me know. Now just stop for a minute. Can any of you consider for a split second that what you are struggling with in any given moment doesn't exist unless it has challenged some former solution that was set into motion, gained momentum, became the expectation, and then when denied, produced a sudden sense of distress, pain, or fear? Yes or no? So look what we've done. We could stop the talk here. The problem is, I'm a solution machine. But were that enough to discover, simply to say it, that would be fabulous, wouldn't it? I got it. No more solutions. But that can't be right either, in and of itself. I'm in the market, somebody parks their car too close to mine, I have to figure out how to get in. I can't suffer and get negative about what they've done, although that certainly comes up, doesn't it? There has to be a practical solution, a practical path to any of these problems that seem to be the source of our pain. This is what we're looking at together, because this comes up so often when we're studying. You're saying, are you saying that I should just become like a living vegetable? You know, I should just quit or give up? No, it's not. But we're going to put everything into context so we can begin to see a more complete view of what it is that every day we face without knowing we face it, and how we can begin to change our relationship to these moments that bring what we call suffering, failing to see that what we're suffering over is that it doesn't match the solution we had to the pain the last time we were in it. Clear enough? Did you know that Paul Simon, and this is true in a sense, is a bit of a mystic? Yeah, he wrote quite a few little koans. For instance, the nearer your destination, the more you slip sliding away. Ooh, I sang that terribly. The nearer your destination, the more you slip sliding away. Ready? Slip sliding away. Slip sliding away. The nearer your destination, the more you slip sliding away. Now what does that mean? The nearer I get to my solution, the more I'm slip sliding away. How can I get closer to something and be slip sliding away at the same time? Do you understand the question? And yet, if we look at it, isn't that kind of true for us? I envision X or Y or Z. Fabulous. As soon as I get that alphabet tucked away into my vernacular, done. And then no more do I envision X, Y, or Z. then I lend myself entirely to spelling out what I need to save myself. And no more do I get that all spelled out, and there is this grand word there, peace, security, love, Jesus, you name it, there it is right in front of me. The nearer I get to it, the more I slide away. In fact, there's a relationship between the fact that somehow I see something through my mind's eye, which isn't my own mind's eye, it is the eye of a desire. And the minute that that desire formulates or establishes what it is that's going to solve the pain of the last thwarted desire, all I have to do is just go after it. And you know that the picture of the carrot on the donkey's head, always chasing itself, slip, slide, and away. So I have an act to help you understand this. I'll ask my actors to come on stage to set the stage with a simple little act. I hope that you will catch it, and then I'll go into the description. This is the story of Kelly and Janice. Kelly, raise your hand. Janice, raise yours. Who's left? The narrator. Kelly and Janice are sisters, quite close, but one of the sisters, Janice, happens to live out of town, and Kelly decides that she needs to go spend some time with her sister. That's what sisters do. Younger sister loves elder sister loves younger sister in a perfect world. And even though they quibble, as all human beings do, they want to be around each other to enjoy each other's company. So Kelly has gotten to the city where Janice lives and has gone out around 5 or 6 o'clock at night to pick up something that Grubhub wouldn't deliver. I'm not going to go into that. And so she walks in the door, her arms loaded with pizza boxes and bags of Chinese food or whatever it is that she's picked up. And as she's walking into the apartment, she watches, and her sister, Janice, whatever the TV was on was just turned off, and Janice is throwing down the remote control onto the table in a fit of anger. And Kelly walks in, she goes, "What in the world?" And this is where our story picks up.
Wow, whoa.
Oh, I didn't see you come in. Sorry about that display of anger, sis.
No worries, but what's got you so upset?
It's just that I'm so tired of all the bad news on TV these days. Seems to be the only thing my favorite network broadcasts these days. That is to say, along with all of their solutions that don't and never have solved anything.
I get it, I really do. Why don't you try watching other networks?
Well, for one thing, I don't like their news. Or for that matter, any of the other news programs being streamed these days. So can you see my problem?
Yes, I think I can. The problem is I'm not sure you see it, if you catch my drift.
Oh, but I do. Thank you very much. I know exactly what I have to do, and in fact, I've already taken the steps that I know will save the day, not to mention my sanity.
Really? Do tell.
Well, since you asked, I just ordered a brand new 84-inch TV that can stream 1,000 channels at once.
You're tuned into the wrong stream. And when at last, as it always does, those channels that this consciousness is habitually locked onto as a result of your conditioning, when they all prove to be irritating, angry-making, frustrating, all of that anxious, when they all do that, what is the solution that we take? Find something else to save us from the dissatisfaction born of not understanding that it doesn't matter where you tune in to that level of being, you are always going to be brought to the same point where nothing that it can present to you is going to bring you upon a path where you're free of that suffering and irritation with ultimately what is your own choices. Only in this instance, 65, 75, 84 inches, I'm going to get an entire wall. You can see this with me? All right. We're getting ready to start make our list, but let me set the stage. In the immediate aftermath of any unwanted or otherwise fearful news of the moment, whether it's a simple disagreement that you're having with friends or family, or someone has treated you with the deepest disrespect and the disturbance seems to be right there at the level of life, what is the one thing that we all do in these moments and continue to do that if, by the way, it ever actually solved the problem, we wouldn't have to continue doing it? What is the one thing that we always do in those moments and keep doing? Patricia.
Take a nap.
The truth is she's not that far away, but we're not trying to get to the list yet, but we'll add it to it, okay? What's the one thing we try to do when we run face to face into something we fear, dread, or otherwise don't want to meet? What's the one thing that we do? I am going to look for a way to rescue myself. That's what I do. I don't know what else to do. I look at my finances, I get a call from the doctor, I look in the mirror. Oh my God. What happened to you? And then the voice says, I don't know, but it's not good. But here's what you can do. And so without hesitation, in order to save ourselves from what is perceived, can you imagine looking in the mirror and feeling threatened by what you see? Barbara says, yes. It's quite evident to me, as a matter of fact. How can I be threatened by my own face? Because it's not the face that's supposed to be there. Where, no doubt, no sooner do we arrive at what seems to be a safe and path to secure what it is that we feel has been surreptitiously stolen from us, and then start to struggle, where no matter, as soon as we do that, we are often running again on a path provided for us that appears when something threatens something in us that tells us that it is my responsibility. I must step up and I'm getting ready to sing the what was the Mountie? Here I come to save the day. What? Dudley Do-Little. Do right. No, that's okay. One of those people. Mighty Mouse, Dudley Do Right. Thank you. You're a picky group, you know that? I have to save myself. So now, if we've done anything in the first 15 minutes, what we should have done is started from a certain place where I asked you a question. What is the thing that I suffer from? And then we've worked our way through a story where we keep trying to change the news feed by changing the TV and the streaming source, to come full circle to realize that we're talking about the fact that somehow or other my rescuing actions are inseparable from the moments that I feel are wrecking my life. You follow the full circle? So now let's look together at what some of these rescuing paths are. So let's bring up the list, please. And out there in the world, you are invited to participate as we build this list. Are we going to be able to build this list, Kate? Thumbs up. Here's the list. Name one or more of the ways you've tried to rescue or otherwise save yourself when finding yourself face to face with some fearful or otherwise unwanted moment. Read it one more time. Name one or more of the ways you've tried to rescue yourself or otherwise save yourself when finding yourself face to face with some fearful or otherwise overwhelming moment. Did you get it? I'm going to prime the pump. Although Patricia really jumped the gun, didn't she? What a perfect answer. Let's put the first answer up there. Take a nap. That's my solution. So let me prime this ever so quickly. One of the ways I rescue myself is I just come up with a plan that's better than the one that just failed. Piece of cake. How about blame? We've been talking a lot about that. That's definitely a way in which I rescue myself from unwanted moments because you're responsible for it. Judge myself. Talk about a convenient way to escape a moment that without seeing it, I was complicit in the creation of. And then in order to avoid the fact that I'm suffering because a solution that I'm identified with from a past similar situation now stands subject to being threatened. And I'll give you one more because they run the gamut. How about saving myself by a clever comeback? Aren't quips a way to save myself? Yes or no? All right, now in the room, over to you. John. Sarcasm. Boy, I talk about saving myself with something special. Terry.
Manipulating the information in my favor.
Manipulating the information in my... Boy, Terry, that's a long way to get to say, just hallucinate that I know the real solution. Change the facts to fit the fear. Yeah, okay. Roger.
Avoid the situation at all costs.
Just avoid it altogether. That's a perfectly reliable solution to a moment I don't want. Are we getting anything from the board out there?
I'm sending them to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. Why aren't I seeing them, Katie girl? All I see is the last time we communicated. Is it on the?
I'm sending it to your messages.
To my, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to send you a little something so you know that we're actually on the same. You get my thumbs up?
Yeah, right above that, you should see 5 that I've sent you.
Isn't that something? We had this problem last time, and I'm not seeing it. In fact, it all just disappeared. Love technology. Katie, then read them out to me one as we go through it.
Do you want me to just read a couple now?
Yeah, sure.
Denise says, over-preparing.
Prepare, and prepare again.
Emmerich says, take a walk to the cafe and drink too much coffee.
Well, that was one of mine. Go eat something. Distract myself, he said, through take a walk to the coffee shop and drink 2 large mochas. He didn't say mocha, I'm saying that. In the room, Leah.
Call someone and complain.
That's a big one. Just start complaining immediately. Imagine, the solution to a moment I don't want is to invest all of my attention in the very thing I'm resisting and believe that I'm different than that because I'm complaining about it. Ellen.
Pretend I don't care.
That's a pretty good one. Act like I don't care. How do I rescue myself from this moment? You've just said something that cut me to the quick. I don't sweat. I don't. I just act like I don't care. I'm above it all. Anybody else? Barbara.
Ask myself over and over again, why did that happen?
Yeah, talk to myself, ask myself questions. Why did that happen? How come he's like that? And more. These are on the board. Carl, I send emails to someone in authority. Placing the blame outside of myself, yes. Find an immediate distraction, yes, Gino. Rebecca, this is a pretty good one. When I run into a moment I don't want with someone, just find a way to apologize or say I'm sorry. Just take a subservient position, or the flip side of it is take the aggressive position. Make a passive-aggressive comment in the room. Anybody?
Become
Jeff.
Distract myself with a different problem.
Well, that's, yes. He said, distract myself with a different problem. Addictions. What are addictions other than what began when I met some moment I didn't know how to deal with, socially, financially, or I just run into something and it's overwhelming how much I want to take that into my body, and then I start doing so and then judge myself for that, Leah. Justification is a huge way in which we rescue ourselves, and that's a very substantial one, Terry. Fly off the handle. Prove, Roger.
Getting defensive.
Get defensive. On the board. Instant gratification, yes, for sure. Nick says, get prepared for another new battle. Deborah, talk to myself about it. Isn't that interesting? I run into a moment I need to rescue myself, and I talk to myself, and when I talk to myself about it, what is all of that conversation attempting to do? Well, it is connected to that, but that's one of the ways in which we do try to rescue ourselves, is by consoling ourselves or comforting ourselves through food or those people that we can deceive into believing that we really want to change, so forth and so on. Try to change the subject, as Deborah says. All right, pretty good list. Anybody mention anything on this list that doesn't go along with something that you and I have seen true in ourselves? Why do we do this? I know you actually don't understand why we do this.
To protect ourselves, to avoid the pain.
No, you're talking about why do we bring up these things? Why do we do this? Because you don't know that you do this. You don't know that when you see something that frightens you, when you hear some news or some circumstance unfolds and suddenly you're filled with conflict, you don't understand your complicity with the reappearance of a moment that may be dissimilar in character, but the condition is the same because it's produced by the same unconscious nature that first believed this is the solution to the suffering. Then I identify with it. Then I go after and I build it for myself. And no more do I get it built than because of certain laws, which we're going to get to. Suddenly, all of it is subject to question. And then when it's questionable, what do I do? Where do I go in those moments to find the solutions to that suffering? Where do I go? I go to memory. Where do you think your solutions come from? Most of them aren't even your solutions. You remember recently, a couple weeks back, the solution to my anger would be to get rid of all the angry white men. My God, how deceived can a human being be to believe that something that they had never even considered, and I'm not just talking about that circumstance, that could be the solution to my suffering, when I'm not even the one who created that identity that fights with whatever it is that challenges it. So my solutions are inevitably, invariably connected, without knowing it, to an unseen circle that this unconsciousness makes, where every time it runs into something that challenges what it has established as the source of completing itself, the only thing it knows to do is to go back into time, into the past, and find something similar or close enough that can be adapted so that then I can simply bring that into the equation and somehow feel for that moment, because I'm identified with the peace or pleasure in it, that I've escaped the problem. And did I escape the problem? Is the problem the condition? Or is the problem the identification with some condition this mind has come up with in order to save itself from some earlier condition that got challenged? Do you understand? Bit of a circular sentence, but I'm trusting you get it. Do you? Yes. What is it that I really need in that moment? Assuming Again, I asked, why do we do this? Before the night is over, it may be happening to you even as I speak, you will turn to some thought, essentially a memory, that will tell you this is what's wrong, this is the solution to it. And you won't see it happen. So that until you actually are present enough to see that happen, what is the very best that you can hope for? If my mind meets some threat in the present moment, what I call the present moment, but a present moment that only exists as a pain or a problem, because in the past, in some similar circumstance, my mind invented a solution and then spent its life manifesting it, which we're going to get to. Spent my whole life building my life, only to find out that everything that I've built in time is subject to the laws of time, not to mention that the time that creates what's supposed to save me in the present moment is the past. And the past can't save itself. It can only recreate itself. It can only reincarnate itself. Please? To see in that moment, what? Just go slow. I'll go slow. I'm sitting at home. Email comes in. My brother, my mother, my father, my sister, the world. I turn on the news. And I don't recognize that I have the exact same reaction that I've had every time a similar situation takes place. I don't see it, not even to begin with. And because I don't see it, I'm remanded over to something that gives me the solution to the reaction I've had. What gives me the solution to the reaction I've had? The consciousness that has the reaction. How many times do I have to actually see that? If I even see it at all, which is why we have these talks, to start seeing. Were I to see that, it's really the premise for this book that I one day hope to get started on, a first novel. It's entitled The Last Time I Was Here. Were I to see that I've had that feeling of fear, that anxiety, that anger, that frustration, that nervousness, I have had that enmity with that person, that resentment, I've had that regret 100 million times. And by the way, that's not an inaccurate number. In fact, that very state is inherent in this unconscious nature that generates it, and you and I, as an instrument of that unconscious nature, find ourselves being played and played and played by that same condition. Were I actually, this is what we're working for, to in that present moment be present enough to see, I've felt that 1,000 times. Nevertheless, 1,000 times I've gone and I've eaten something, I've called someone, I've taken a trip, I've gone shopping, I make a deal with myself or someone else, I try to think positively, I decide now it's time to go meditate. Any one of all the infinite number of solutions to the recurring solution, if I see from myself in that moment that that doesn't work, what happens? What happens? You have to get not only to the place where you see that is true, but in the witnessing of that truth, to let that light of awareness produce in you something that is unthinkable to this consciousness. And you know what's unthinkable to this consciousness? And it's part of this idea that I had in the talk title of The Greatest Illusion. Do you know what's unthinkable to this consciousness and has to become real to you? Can anybody guess?
Not to have a solution.
It's not my job to save myself. That's to know my job. I'm not here to save myself. That's all I know. I feel a reaction, a fear, a worry, a doubt, an anger. All I know in the moment of that reaction is that I am, without knowing it, remanded over to something that tells me who I am and what to do in order to get rid of the experience of myself in that moment that is myself in that moment that I can't see. Do you see this with me? Now let's suppose for a moment that I see that. Can you at least see that as we're sitting here in this room? I've saved myself 100 million times. I drive in my car. I'm saving myself. Thinking, solving. What about tomorrow? What are we going to do if this and when that? Can you have a thought like that that doesn't bring into your consciousness the idea that I've got to get ahead of the game so I can solve the problem before it gets here? So I can be saved from something that my mind has imagined as a threat. Yes or no? Transition. It's like an intermission. A long time ago in the movies, they actually used to have this. They'd watch and then they had to change reels, and they'd put up on the screen intermission. Then they'd show you popcorn. Subtle hint. If I'm not to save myself, the answer can't be to just give myself up. I have a family. I have a job. I have responsibilities. I want to provide security for my family. And here comes this ostensible, palpable threat. People are always asking me this, well, what do I do? And I always answer in the same way, but I'm going to enlarge the answer so that we can begin to understand together what it means to do what is in your power to do and refuse to do what is not. How do we resolve this immense disparity that we run into at all times, that, by the way, has a way of explaining itself and keeping itself going? I know that I ought not give myself to something that has proven itself futile 1,000 times, and yet somehow seemingly connected to that solution that appears in the moment is something that makes great sense and seems necessary for me to do. Do you follow? We're looking at a world in which suddenly there is something that needs to be done, and it's evident that it needs to be done, but we're also looking into a world where what we think needs to be done constitutes an emergency. If we're ever going to bring an end to this unconscious nature that believes it must rescue itself from what? From its own solutions. Did you invent the idea that you should have a certain amount of money or possessions or authority? Did you invent that idea? No. And where did you get that from? You can say my mother and father and their mother and father and their mother and father, from the consciousness of this world that gradually over time moved away from the idea that art and beauty and religion and culture, that these were not the important things, that ethics didn't matter. What mattered was you could afford to own these things and change any laws that you needed to if they didn't fit your solutions. Without real self-knowledge, you're always going to be doing something like this. I see this moment as being this or that. One or the other. That's it. We talked about this. One or the other. and push comes to shove, it's going to be the one that most seems to save me from whatever it is the other is that I don't want, yes or no. But we looked at this and we said the real answer isn't one or the other, it's what? One and the other. But to understand what one and the other means, we have to recognize that we are, as human beings, brought into this world in a physical form that of itself is something the world needs, nature needs, in order to not just propagate, but make profitable whatever the relationship is that this body and what this body makes and creates is required. There isn't any creature on the planet that isn't a required, purposeful being for the service to something greater than itself. I don't want to go too deep. Yes, right? So I have a life. And as a human being, given certain creative powers, I have seeded into this world the things that my mind tells me I needed to grow and manifest so that I could be what this mind tells me and the world tells me is a successful human being. I did it as best I could. Haven't you? And yet it is undeniable. God help us to see it. It is undeniable that what I have seeded into this world and served like a slave to ensure the continuation of what I thought would be my contentment and sense of being complete always runs into a moment where it's not what I thought it was, and instead of me serving myself with it, I'm serving some self that suffers every time anything it has created is challenged. Is this not true? And the only thing I know to do in those moments, as I've just spoken of for the last 30 minutes, is to do what? Figure out a way to rescue myself. Rescue my world. Rescue. You crazy rabbit, you. I have to rescue myself. I've got to save myself. Everything depends on having this in that place and these people doing that. What am I going to do? I've got to rescue myself. And all we know to do is to serve that. But on the other hand, real self-knowledge tells us that not only do we as men and women are endowed with the capacity to create, but more importantly, we ourselves are a creation. And that though we don't see it, the human being is a seed. A tale of two natures. One nature brought into this body and becomes part of its consciousness that is consumed with completing itself according to what the world promises will be profitable to it. But that nature runs right into another kind of nature that is itself on this earth, in this body, to fulfill a completely different purpose that has nothing to do with anything personal at all, but rather has to do with that man or woman serving the purpose of his or her existence, fulfilling the purpose of the soul, which is to serve a greater role in the larger scheme of being, and in doing so, not only be fulfilled through their service to the divine, but in that service to the divine, recognize themselves as an inseparable part of that whole movement, so that its sense of being whole and complete can't be threatened. It can't be taken from that man or woman, because he has seen, she has understood that my role in this life is to fulfill the purpose for which I've been brought into it. And I get it. On one hand, I got married, I've got kids, I have a business. My purpose has to be to see that as best I can, that I am responsible to those things that I have created. But I must have a first responsibility. And until I'm present to the first responsibility, I am consumed by the identification with the first that must become the last. Serving all the time without even recognizing that I'm doing it. Trying to fulfill the purpose of an existence that no matter what I do in it cannot bring me peace. Doesn't matter how much money I have. I thought $10 would do it, then $20, then $100, then $1,000. Then you should be able to see your slavery to something that always is first imagined, and when you start to get close to it, slip sliding away. And now it has to be a little bit more of that. It has to be something quite different than what it was, because what it was that was first imagined no longer serves the purpose. In fact, what I imagined is threatened. So what I must do is then imagine something new to save myself and to rescue me. Are you seeing a pattern here? Or on the other hand, my awareness of these two worlds at once gives me the opportunity to do what I set out to achieve. I set out to do, to become. I set out to do it because, in one respect, even though it's hard to understand, whatever it is that was that appeared before these interior eyes, it was a way in which I was going to discover something about myself that I couldn't discover in any other way. But then, without knowing it, becoming identified with what it is that I had to achieve or believed I did, then instead of being liberated by new self-understanding that takes me on to the next level of understanding, I become a captive of the very creation that I thought was going to free me. And it can't, and it doesn't, and it never will. What does it profit a man to have gained the whole world and to have lost his soul? No one ever said that you shouldn't love something in this world. You have this either or mentality. Well, how am I going to do this when this seems to be antithetical to that? This and that are never antithetical. They are one side and the other of one another. And to be a natural human being means that I'm invited, I'm welcome to do the things that are natural to my essence. But at a certain point, what is natural to my essence becomes unnatural when I become identified with it. And then I believe that what I have created is all that matters. And then I suffer forever trying to rescue myself from anything that challenges that identity. Do you see it? So when I started this talk, I said that the first part was this illusion that we don't see the source of our suffering. Here's the second part of that. It's not just that we can't save ourselves or rescue ourselves from our fear. That's not the problem. We think it is, do we not? The real problem is that there's no one there by our name that needs to be rescued. That's the real illusion. That's the real illusion. It doesn't mean that I don't fight for what I want. Doesn't mean that I don't do everything I can to perfect whatever it is that I'm trying to perfect. It just means that there is a perfection in one world, and that when you identify with it and believe that that's what it means to be a perfect human being and have a perfect life, you have set yourself up for an unending punishment of forever trying to protect what you believe you've made perfect. But on the other hand, to see that more and more clearly is literally to begin to save myself from the unconscious throes of useless suffering. We have to stop looking for a way out of these moments. Isn't that what we do? And instead of looking for a way out of the moment, which has our attention where? Do what Christ said. Turn around. Turn within. Now, why? Because see, we get, well, I'm going to turn within the next time I need a solution. Then you've done the same thing. Don't you understand it? Jesus saved me. You've done the same thing. You've just found rescue in some pleasing, sentimental, or otherwise idealistic image, which is why God's to have no image. You've just substituted the loss of one image for the pleasure of another one. The loss of power or possession for the belief that you'll acquire more the next time. All you've done is substitute. Your life and your work on this planet isn't to substitute one unconscious nature for the action of another. It's to start realizing by turning within, what are the actual facts of the moment? What is the reality of the moment? You don't understand who you are. The truth of yourself is the reality of the moment. Made in the image of God means that everything that takes place files into, intersects, and interacts within you to produce a new creation in scale. As surely as cosmic dust is collected by some dark matter and turned into a sun, as surely as that is, this soul is intended to participate in the magnificence of that movement. But it doesn't. And it doesn't because we're too easily attracted and distracted by a consciousness that has created the world that it's trying to change. And then when the world comes along and it says, the news is bad, I simply look for another channel, another stream of thought. Yes or no, please? All right, now, I think you've understood some of what I've had to say, yes? I'm going to ask Kate, Debbie, don't do it yet, to bring up the second key lesson. This is not to create confusion. It is to help you see what you are intended to see if you would stop looking for a way to save yourself and instead recognize that I can't save myself and remain there in that moment so that everything that's moving in you can be revealed and you can realize it, where the revelation becomes the actual integration. So let me explain this key lesson. Take a nice deep breath. It's one of those that if I were you, I would write down and I would contemplate it. Just listen, then we'll look, then we'll learn. Every quest in time is subject to the immutable laws that help to create it. So that just as surely as we have seen how, in the passage of time, mountains become valleys and oceans turn into vast deserts, so is it true that every condition imagined in passing time, regardless of how fulfilling it seemed in its conception, must eventually prove itself empty of its promise. Every quest in time is subject to the immutable laws that help create it. When do I try to create what I believe is going to save me? When do I try to create it? When what is active, timeless, acts upon what is passive in me, and it stirs me up, it disturbs me because it's threatening something that I thought I had set and ready to go. And in the moment that that happens, I start to do what? I start to figure out what I have to create in order to save me. Yes or no? Leave that up there. It still is up there.
It's me. Sorry, I didn't know you wanted it up.
Yes, please. I'm explaining it.
Let me know when you want it.
Okay. Do you see that? So by law, anything that this mind has created is, by the fact that it is a creation of time, subject to the movement of these opposites. Mountains become valleys, oceans become deserts. It is inescapable in this world of opposites. Do you see that with me? So that as surely as we've seen how, and isn't that true? We know that mountains become valleys, don't we? And we know that oceans turn into deserts, don't we? So we can see that it doesn't matter what the condition is, at some point in passing time, by the action of these laws of the opposites, whatever is manifested will turn into its opposite. It cannot do other than that. Now you say, well, gosh, that took a long time for that mountain to become a valley. Surely I can hang on to my dough and my good looks long enough for that. What you don't understand yet is that those laws operate in scale and in levels. So that there's no moment in which a person imagines the mountaintop that they haven't in that same moment produced the valley that they will find themselves in when that mountain crumbles because some condition challenges it. So it's true that every condition imagined in passing time, and what do I rescue myself with other than I fill myself up with the hope of something that's better than the bitter cup I'm drinking from? And the very thing that I've imagined becomes the bitter cup. What if I could see that? What if I'm sitting at home and my mind says, yeah, isn't that how it goes? Or every one of us is the embodiment of these things in any given moment, are we not? Like some strange unconscious kaleidoscope with all these colors and shapes and forms forever shifting within itself, and you and I looking at what's coming up and believing that's I. When it's not I, it is a sense of I that is produced by something acting on this unconscious nature to produce the revelation of all the infinite possibilities, I might add. So that I start to think, well, that here, you know what? If I can just get this nailed down, can I just get this one thing settled, please? Because I don't want to visit it anymore. I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to, freeze it. Yes or no? But you can't see even that the wish to freeze it is in contradiction with the part of you that always wants more, that doesn't want it to change. Can you freeze something without wishing somehow or other that it would never change? And is there anything that isn't being acted on and brought through changes beyond and above our ability to control? One last time through this key lesson. Every quest in time is subject to the immutable laws that help to create it. Please, Father, that we might understand that. So that as surely as we've seen mountains become valleys and oceans turn to deserts, the exact same thing holds true with everything that we imagine is going to lift us above our problems. What you imagine can't lift you above the problem. It belongs to the mind that created it. And as you see that, the mind gets quiet. That seemingly ineffable, impossible to grasp silence, that wish to know something that is true and pure without thought, it is built into the negation of your present relationship with that unconscious nature, so that it is the negation of that self that creates the real solution, because the real problem was inherent in the self that kept creating those problems through what it imagined would save it. Do we communicate? Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
right. Hang on a second. I have to open another place. Just give me 1 second here. All right, here we go. All right, sorry about that, everyone. Welcome back to part 2 of our class. We're going to get started with an open dialogue Q&A discussion with all of you in just a moment. Remember that you can, if you wish to participate, and if you're in GoToWebinar, you can speak directly with Guy. You could raise your hand, just click or tap the hand icon once, and I'll see you in the queue there and bring you in. If you want to send in a question, you can do that in the question area. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, I'm trying to cycle around and keep track of those comments as well, so you can send a note there and I'll try to pick that up and read it to Guy. Before we get started, I just want to tell you about 2 great things coming up. So we have some fun things that are going to happen here at the end of the month. First of all, you are familiar with Discovery Wednesday. You got a good taste of that tonight, where we have a class where Guy, sets the stage with the topic, and there's always a portion during the class where he opens it up, where he invites your participation, and that's a great way for you to interact and really go deeper into the material. Well, now we are on the last Wednesday of every month. We are introducing another new class, if you will, and it's going to be called Deep Dive Wednesday. So on Deep Dive Wednesdays, what we're going to do is you out there, you students, are going to submit any writings of Guy's or things that you've heard in a talk, anything that you would like him to elucidate more, that you would like him to just explain or go into a deeper discussion on. So again, this is anything that is from the classes. I know a lot of people actually go back to the transcripts of the classes and review those. You might find something in there as you're going through the transcript that you think, I'd like to get a little bit more of a deeper understanding on that. So you can send that in to us. You could also draw on any of his works at all, his books, his audio books, or, albums, anything that you see, daily meditation email, weekly key lesson, anything that you would like to get more, a deeper look into. And the way that you can send that to us is just go through the contact form on our website, if you would. That will streamline everything and make sure that we get all of those collected into one place. So to go to our website, to the contact form, you just go to guyfinley.org/contact, and that will take you right to the page where you can contact us there. There's a form, and there's also an email address that you can use. All right, so that's Deep Dive Wednesdays, and our very first inaugural one will be on May 27th. So hope that you will participate and also join us live on May 27th. And then that actually happens to be right before Easter weekend, and Guy is going to be giving a special Easter talk. So wanted to just put that on your calendar. That's May 31st. If you want to join us for that, you can. And like I said, Guy has a special topic for that day, and we're going to be sending out emails letting you know more about it here in the coming weeks. But just wanted you to know that that's a special Sunday of Wisdom. I said May. Sorry about that. Someone told me I said May. I meant March. I actually wrote down March, so I don't know why I said May. In any event, Deeper Dive Wednesday is March 27th, and Easter is March 31st. Sorry about that. All right. I think that's probably enough for now. If you have any questions, just reach out to us on our website. All right, Guy, are you there? Let's go ahead and bring you in and get started with the Q&A.
I'll be here in May.
May, March, August, September. We'll be here every
Yes, we will.
All right. Do you have anything that you want to start off with, or do you want to just jump in?
No. Open to the class or to the net, as it were.
All right. I don't see any hands up just yet, but I do have 3 questions. So let me go ahead and send one to you here. I hope you get this, and we'll have to figure out why you're not getting our messages.
Well, it did come up eventually, Kate. It just wasn't there when we thought it would. And
so it came up late.
late, yeah, somehow it disappeared. Technology.
Okay. Yeah. Technology. Can't live with it. Can't throw it out the window. So do you see the one there that I pasted? It was a leftover question from Susanna.
I do.
All right. So here's what Susanna asked in our last class. What should we do when we are so depressed with all the terrible events happening in the world? I am especially saddened and upset and angry with how women are treated everywhere.
Oh, Susanna. This is a pretty good example of what I was talking about just now, if you were able to catch the talk. But I'll say it as sweet, short, and simply as I can. It is impossible to resent any human being or group of human beings without first having consented to hurt yourself. Period. Physician, heal thyself, said Christ. Until we begin to become aware of the fact that the pain we blame on whatever the circumstance may be outside of us cannot be separated from an unconscious nature that has placed a demand on that condition prior to its appearance, there's not a chance. But that's why I gave you the talk, the material I did tonight, so that you can understand. Maybe your purpose in life is to see that women are never mistreated again. God willing. So maybe you feel like that's your job to go and make sure, whatever it is, women aren't mistreated. Men become less toxic. Good luck. Hatred is toxic. Resentment is toxic. How can there be a healthy resentment? I challenge you, I defy you to answer that. Does that mean that I don't do the best I can because that's what I feel called to do? I've said this 1,000 times. Sweet God, go for it. But don't be someone who just sits as that. I don't like this and I don't want that. And why are people like this? You get into the mix. And then when you get in deep enough and see that you're not going to change the mixture produced by millennia of unconscious natures acting unconsciously against each other, then you'll understand my first work. Let this seed serve the purpose it was put into this body for. And when I understand the nature of love that did that, then I can bring that understanding into the world. And God willing, if I understand something enough, maybe someone else I'm talking to can understand that too. And then 2 people can become 3, and 5 can become 10. But not joined together in some psychopathic idea of what will bring about peace on this planet, but joined together in the name of peace itself, for the sake of being the instrument of peace that cannot act against itself. That's it.
All right, we're going to go to our hands in the queue. Lisa has raised her hand. I believe she's tuning in from Australia. Let's see. Lisa, I'm unmuting you, and you need to unmute on your end as well. There you are.
Lisa?
Oh, nuts. I see your mic is green. That's a good sign, but we're not hearing you. So Lisa, I'm going to go ahead and mute you again, and I'll work with you in the back end. Let's go to Nick in the meantime.
Maybe it takes a long time for a voice from down under to get here.
Right.
Hi, thanks, Kate. And thanks, Guy. You know, I think I took a note, and I might have not wrote it exactly, but you said, how do you see the moment? And you said it's either this or that. And I what came to me immediately is I see it as mine. And that was like a eye-opening experience, which means I'm a slave to it. And then I was talking earlier about I got a full court press on all the time. And that full court press has a whole bunch of many full court presses going on, you know, full of self-will and desire. And the process of negating all that is what I'm hoping to continue, because none of that equals love, you know. So I don't know. That's what I kind of heard. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome, Nick. And not to make light of your comment, but you can't negate that. That's conflict.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The solution to my pain is that I'm going to negate it. I'm going to go jump in a cave someplace. I'm going to become a baptized Christian. I'm going to become a Jew that does those things don't work. They can't work. What works is seeing beyond the shadow of a doubt that the experience I don't want, I was and am complicit in its continuity. That's the only solution. And it's right in front of us. The valley I'm wandering through, the desert, this dark night of the soul, and I'm not making light of that because by God, that is a challenge and a difficult thing every time one goes through it. But can I be going through that woe is me unless I believe that somehow or other I ought not be in that place? So that I'm already on the mountain. I'm not supposed to be in the valley. I'm not supposed to be in this pit where the fires are or where the lions are looking at me. I'm supposed to be beyond that. No, you're not beyond that. There's no such thing as beyond that. There's only being what you are and agreeing to see what that being is given to be in that moment. And then its transformation and rebirth produces the next iteration of that revelation of what is truly divine. On we go.
All right. I have sent you a question that came in from Emmerich. He asks, is it even possible to listen without wanting the message to be a solution? It's almost as if, sincerely, I don't know how to listen.
Oh, good, Emmerich. Oh, good. Oh, I wish, my heart gets so full sometimes, I wish I could just pour it out because some of you really look miserable right now. You really do. It's just, the love of misery is unbelievable. But Emmerich, it is a path that is gradual and instantaneous in the same moment, by which that which is impure is revealed to itself, so that in that revelation, another order of will, another order of awareness, an impersonal nature can see beyond the shadow of a doubt. As I said last week, I don't have a pure impulse. So by and large, for the most part, when I read, I'm hoping to take something out of that book and make it mine. When I listen to a talk, I'm waiting for the epiphany, the So there's something in me that never stops trying to get its hands on something. I can't stop it from being that way. That's its nature. Frankie the turkey is not going to suddenly become George the Wonder Horse. It's not going to happen. Frankie is Frankie. Now I'm trying to help Frankie. No, as God is my witness, I've told you 1,000 times, you and I are here, God willing, if we're fortunate enough, to work with whatever animals we happen to know or around and help them develop. They need to develop too, just as you do. And animals with higher emotions, dogs, Frankie actually doesn't qualify, but that doesn't mean that I can't talk to him. So he's not afraid. Then you say, well, that's not healthy because if he's not afraid of you, he's going to become somebody else's Thanksgiving meal. No, everything that Frankie takes in and learns about human kindness changes the consciousness of all turkeys everywhere. So I have to understand him, Eric. I am what I am. But what I am is subject moment to moment to an awareness of what I am, and that awareness alone can begin to change what I see myself being. So that the task isn't, as we imagine, to find and grab some solution. I don't know, I know how hard it is. I try the best I can to communicate. I'm going to give a whole talk on this. Imagine a man, he sees a mountain. Oh, a mountaintop. Well, it'd be a lot better to be on that mountaintop than it would be down in this valley with all these really stupid people. I'm a mountaintop person, not a bottom person, says everybody. That's what judgment is. And so I set out for the mountaintop. What I fail to see is that as I'm walking towards the mountaintop, it's becoming a valley. That's what I fail to see. It's under law. Time changes what is created in time. The mind that wants to achieve something in time is forever being acted on by the time it hopes to escape on the mountaintop. To see that doesn't mean that I don't long for the mountaintop. I just start to understand the mountaintop's not out there. There's no distance between yourself and the kingdom of heaven. No time required. So, America, a lot to say about it because I want you to be very encouraged about the discovery. Now, I don't know how to listen. I don't know how to taste my food. I don't know how to taste my food. If you ever watch yourself eat, you're no different than a wolf or a dog. I don't know how to be grateful for a glass of water, for the shower that cleans me. I don't know how to be grateful for that. Why? I'm on my way to a mountaintop. I'm on my way to satisfying the pleasure that pushed me to put that food in my mouth to begin with. Do you see it with me? Hope that helps, America. Good work. Stay close. On we go. Kate.
All right, we're going to try Lisa again. And Lisa, I also sent you an email if we don't get it to work here that might help with this. But I'm going to unmute you and try again to unmute on your end. And let's cross our fingers. Nope.
No.
The note I sent was, I think you might have to go to your settings on your phone and give permission to the GoTo app to use your mic. So try that.
She's
and
done it
lower your
before.
hand. And if you do get that worked out, raise your hand again. In the meantime, I will come on and read a question from Christian. Christian says, hi. Is there a small exercise we can do daily to help us to begin? A first step to do in our busy day?
Yes. Good timing, the question, really, because today I spent most of the day working on some new material. I don't know that it's going to be Sunday, but I'll give you a hint. And not just to help you take a first step in a busy day, but God willing, little by little, as you understand the necessity of it, something that never leaves you. It's a 2-word exercise. Remember sooner. Remember sooner. Remember in the moment of the challenge, not what you're given to remember afterwards. Remember sooner. Remember deeper. Remember the whole of yourself. Those of you that have anger with this, that, and the other. I don't know that it was taken in that question. I saw somebody, I see where animals are mistreated and it makes me so angry and sad. Of course it makes you angry and sad. That belongs to one level of consciousness. The other level of consciousness is to understand that you lash out at yourself every time you're angry at a world for doing what you say ought not be done to animals. And the anger that wants to come up inside of the chest. How can any human being mistreat? Now listen to this. An animal? How about the way you mistreat the person when you're checking out in a grocery store? The way you mistreat yourself every time you're caught up in some ambition or trying to prove that some fear can be negated by some other plan. We're all concerned with the wrong things. And one of the reasons it's convenient to be concerned with the wrong things is because that way I'm saving myself from seeing how in debt I am to these wrong parts of myself that drive me from pillar to post. Yes or no? That's it, Kate? Uh-oh, there's something else.
No, you're not going anywhere.
Okay. Just so you know, I'm not in charge of my own life here.
Here's a question that came in from our friend Patricia, and she says, getting through difficult times and the concept that it was meant to be and what we learned from the experience has always been difficult for me to grasp. I welcome any thoughts.
Oh yeah, this is, ready? On one hand, you can say, as a result of the justice of karma, meaning that everything that is unfolding unfolds because of what has produced it, and because it has been produced, it needs to be reconciled to the greater whole. That's what karma is, the justice of completing what is incomplete. The karma is finishing the business of what is unfinished. That's what karma is. So it's okay to say, if you want, in that moment it was meant to be, but only when you add this, it was meant to be because it was meant to be seen. It was meant to be, but only if it's only as long as it's seen. It's meant to be, it's meant to see. Then it's fruitful. Otherwise it's resentful. Okay, Kate? More.
One more. One more and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
This was a comment that came in from Mary. I asked her to clarify a little bit, but I didn't hear back, so I'm going to read it anyway. She says, I myself can do nothing, but I can't help it. I am suffering.
Welcome to the crucible that transforms the consciousness, Mary. In the context of the talk, I'm beginning to suspect I'm not present enough, I don't remember soon enough, that when I'm getting ready to go out and save myself and fix you and do this, rescue myself, I need to understand in that moment the futility of the action. Do we agree? But I want to do it. I have to do it. I'm acting out this. I have to do it. I can't not revisit this. I can't not look over there. Because if I don't look over there, something bad may happen to me. I have to, my pretty. So here I am. I know that I ought not. And then I'll see myself do not the good I would, but the evil I would not. And now I'm in this crucible where at least I now have the awareness of something that wants to act in its own stead. And what it's acting in isn't in my stead, it is in the continuation of itself. So I recognize I can't do anything, but I'm suffering because I can't. And if I stay there long enough, I will eventually see, as I said, the whole purpose of this talk is it isn't you that's suffering. Yes, there's suffering there. It belongs to that first seed and all that it is sown into the world that expects and hopes to confirm itself. And it's not happening, and my life is hell in a handbasket. I'm suffering. But the life you're suffering for is not your real life. You can suffer to develop and perfect it as best you understand, but the minute you believe that the whole of yourself is that life, you're done. Good night.